Picture this. You're in a grocery store, walking up and down all the aisles, picking out the food that you need for the week. And then you come to the produce section and you're faced with an option. You can either pick the organic food or the non-organic food, with the organic food being about 2 times as much and the non-organic food looking a little less appetizing. I've been in this situation a lot with my mom, as my mom is a strong advocate for organic food, while I, on the other hand, say that the organic food is overpriced and really doesn't make a difference. So, what is the difference between organic and non-organic food? Okay, so for those who don't know, the organic food market has been growing rapidly over the past 30 years. In 1980, the organic food market was valued at about $1 billion, while in 2010 it had grown to about $30 billion, and it's been growing at a 10% increase since then. So why has all this been happening? Well, it's because Americans have become more conscious about what they put in their bodies, since the obesity epidemic has affected so many people around the country. So when they go to the store, they're more likely to choose something that says organic versus non-organic because they know the organic food doesn't include pesticides or growth hormones. But what are these pesticides and growth hormones, and what effect do they actually have on our bodies? Well, pesticides are typically used by big farms in order to keep away weeds, insects, and other infections from their plants. They're used to make a bigger output of produce because less of the food will go to waste. These pesticides do have some side effects, such as anxiety, cramping, and depression. We don't see them all that often, but they do happen. What most people don't know is that pesticides aren't only limited to non-organic food, though. You see, organic food doesn't mean that they don't use any pesticides at all. It just means that the pesticides that they do use come from natural ingredients. In a 2012 study done by Chris Wilcox, he actually figured out that some organic pesticides and natural ingredients pose the same health risks as non-organic pesticides. So when comparing the two types of pesticides, it really comes down to the environmental impact. Okay, so when we look at the environmental impacts of organic food versus non-organic food, we actually see that organic food is much worse for the environment. In a study done at Oxford University, they found that the majority of organic pesticides used actually produce more greenhouse gas emissions than its non-organic counterparts. So, now that we have all the information about the environmental impacts versus the health impacts, let's make an educated decision on what type of produce we should be buying at the supermarket. Okay, so there is one more category of food that I have yet to discuss that does play a pretty big role in the supermarket, and that category is local. So while local food doesn't specify if it's organic or non-organic, it does mean that the food was grown closer to the store where you're going to buy the food at, which means that less pesticides would be used since there's less travel time between the farm and the supermarket. Local food also tends to compete better with non-organic food, making it more economically viable for most people to buy. So now we're back in the produce section of your supermarket. You have your organic food, you have your locally grown food, and you have your non-organic food, with your organic food being the most expensive, your non-organic food being the least, and your locally grown food somewhere in the middle. What I suggest you do here is you look for any fruits and vegetables that are in season and get something local so you're supporting the local economy and getting the best fruits and vegetables you possibly can. That's it for Science Time with Abe today. Happy shopping, everyone.